The 18-year-old suspect in the Buffalo shooting bought his semi-automatic rifle legally, but the gun had apparently been modified so it could hold more ammunition. New York State, which has some of the strictest gun laws in America, doesn't allow the sale of any magazine with more than 10 rounds. Some states, like California, are trying to ban the sale of semi-automatic weapons to anyone under the age of 21. The two Trump-appointed judges struck down that California law just last month. As Slate writer Mark Joseph Stern writes on Twitter, the dissent in that decision notes that, quote, a disproportionate rate of gun homicides among 18 to 20-year-olds gives the government a strong interest in restricting young people's access to assault weapons. But the Trump judges in the majority didn't care. Kind of reminds me of the COVID case. Mark Joseph Stern joins us now. He's a senior writer at Slate covering courts and the law. So, Mark, lay out for us what happened in California with the state's law banning the sale of semi-automatic weapons to people under the age of 21.
So, like a number of states, California says that young adults, people aged 18 to 20, are not equipped to purchase or possess assault weapons, semi-automatic rifles like AR-15 style weapons often used in mass shootings, and has banned them. And yet, quite recently, a panel for the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals that featured two of Donald Trump's nominees struck down that law under the Second Amendment to the Constitution and ruled that young people age 18 to 20 at a minimum have a constitutional right to own these weapons, invoking the American Revolution and saying that it is deeply rooted in this nation's history and tradition for young people to bear arms, and specifically extremely dangerous arms, in defense of their homeland.
When they say that young people, do you think that in their heads they're thinking of young black women? I mean, are they that explicit in the sense of they're evoking a very specific image? Because again, we know that, Philando Castile had a legal gun and he's dead.
Of course they aren't thinking about black women. They're thinking about white boys, specifically the white teenagers who fought in the American Revolution. And I'll give it to them that certainly there were 16-year-olds, 18-year-olds fighting in the American Revolution, but that fact does not automatically establish a right of those individuals to carry assault weapons on our streets today. And this is an aspect of Justice Alito's leaked draft opinion overturning Roe that is really worth dwelling on, because he establishes this test saying that these rights that are deeply rooted in history or tradition are protected by the Constitution, and no other rights receive any kind of safeguard from the courts. Well, here, these Trump judges just sort of invoke this hazy idea from grade school civics and history about how young people took up arms against the redcoats and use that to bootstrap a newfound fundamental right of 18-year-olds to buy assault weapons. It just shows how easy it is, I think, to manipulate this test to reach outcomes you like and to reject outcomes you don't, because I really don't believe that the right of young people to own assault weapons is any more deeply rooted in our history than the right of bodily autonomy or the right to terminate a pregnancy.
Well, also, I think that, when you're thinking about the completely deregulated area of guns, and you think about the consequences of that, I mean, it feels to me like the extremist position on gun rights is a threat to my safety as a black person. And we're just seeing more and more instances where people who have this extremist position, their rhetoric allies a lot more closely to what we saw in that manifesto than any messaging around coming together or peace or anything. I mean, it's a parallel track that they're on here.
It's only logical that terrorists and mass shooters would support the Second Amendment. They intend to use their right to bear arms to slaughter innocent civilians. And in fact, our nation's intelligence apparatuses have long been warning that our gun laws are an easy target for terrorists to exploit to create mass killings and mass deaths, as we just saw this weekend. And, one fact that is a through line in so many of these shootings and so many of these horrific cases is that the shooter is young. You do not often see older or even middle-aged individuals committing mass shootings. Violent crime is very closely correlated with age. It appears to peak around the age of 17. And that's one major reason why states like California say we are not going to let people under 21 access these especially lethal weapons. But the Trump judges on the Ninth Circuit just shrugged off that argument and said that the law was overbroad because, it simply prohibited all of these law-abiding young people from owning guns because of a few bad apples. Well, it doesn't feel like a few bad apples to me when these shootings appear to be happening every week and they never leave the headlines because so many angry, isolated, and bored young men are buying these weapons and using them to murder innocents.
Mark Joseph Stern, thank you so much for that analysis on this tragic day, but I think it's important we process all of it. Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.